The empty throne. Ambassador Ilara Voss stood before the massive doors of the Grand Galactic Council chamber, her four-fingered hands trembling slightly as she smoothed down her ceremonial robes. After 3 cycles as the Sidoran representative, she still felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her slender shoulders. Today's session promised to be particularly tense. Trade disputes between the Meridian Alliance and the Corvish Directorate had escalated to dangerous levels. As she entered the vast circular chamber, her gaze was drawn to the towering semicircle of seats arranged in tiers. Representatives from over 200 civilizations filled the hall with a cacophony of languages, scents, and colors. Energy fields hummed around delegation pods, adjusting atmospheres and gravity to accommodate the diverse needs of the council members. Yet amid all this activity, Ilara's attention fixed on a single empty seat, not just any seat, the Earth seat. Positioned prominently in the first tier, it remained conspicuously vacant, as it had been for nearly 20 cycles. Still fascinated by human absence, Ambassador Voss, the gravelly voice of Tyrek Sinix, the ancient Decurian delegate, interrupted her thoughts. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the chamber lights as he approached. "Wouldn't anyone be?" Ilara replied, her eyes still fixed on the empty seat. "The most influential species in the galaxy, holders of the balance vote, simply withdraws. No explanation, no diplomacy, just silence. Some mysteries are better left unsolved." Tyrek Sinix clicked his mandibles nervously. The humans made their choice. But why? Ilara persisted. A species doesn't abandon its central position in galactic governance without reason. The Decurian's compound eyes shifted uneasily. "Perhaps you're too young to remember the panic that followed their withdrawal. 3 wars erupted within a standard year. The economic systems nearly collapsed. And yet we survived," Ilara said. "But that doesn't explain what drove them away." A chiming tone signaled the beginning of the session, ending their conversation. As Ilara took her place in the Sidoran pod, her thoughts remained fixed on that empty seat, a void in the cosmic order that no one seemed willing to examine too closely. For centuries, humans had been the cornerstone of galactic civilization. Their remarkable adaptability, innovative thinking, and diplomatic skill had made them natural mediators. When tensions rose between the ancient Corvish and the expansionist Meridians, it had been Earth that brokered peace. When the plague ravaged the outer rim worlds, Earth's scientists found the cure. But then, without warning, they had withdrawn completely. The official statement had been brief and puzzling. Earth regretfully announces its withdrawal from all galactic affairs effective immediately. All non-human vessels are prohibited from entering Sol system. All diplomatic missions are recalled. This decision is non-negotiable and permanent. The session droned on, but Ilara found her attention wandering repeatedly to that empty seat. What could drive a species to such isolation? Fear? Threat? Discovery? The mystery had haunted her since her appointment to the council. Following the session, Ilara made her way to the archives, a vast repository of galactic knowledge housed beneath the council chambers. Few delegates bothered with the physical archives anymore, preferring to access information through neural interfaces, but Ilara had always felt there was value in the tangible. Access records pertaining to Earth's withdrawal from the council, she requested of the archive system. "Access denied," came the immediate response. "Those records are classified under Protocol 7. Ilara's antennae twitched in surprise. Protocol 7 was the highest security classification, reserved for information deemed a threat to galactic stability. On whose authority? Classification implemented by unanimous vote of the High Council 20 standard cycles ago, following Earth's withdrawal. This was unusual. Even as a sitting council member, she couldn't access this information. Something wasn't right. The mystery of Earth's abandonment ran deeper than she'd imagined. Computer, display the last publicly available council session attended by Earth representatives before their withdrawal. The holo display flickered to life, showing the council chamber as it had been 20 cycles ago. The human delegate, A silver-haired woman named Admiral Helena Chen spoke with unusual urgency. Must understand the significance of these energy readings. Our scientists have confirmed that the anomaly is expanding. We need a united response. The recording abruptly ended. Computer, continue playback. No further public records exist for this session. Remaining content classified under Protocol 7. Ilara leaned back, her mind racing. Energy readings? An expanding anomaly. What had Earth discovered that was so alarming it drove them to isolation? Her private communicator chimed, a message from an unknown source. The answers you seek lie in the abandoned observation post at Proxima Centauri. Earth wasn't running away from something. They were protecting us all. A friend. Ilara's heart raced. Someone was watching her inquiries. She quickly closed the archive terminal and made her way back to her quarters, her mind whirling with questions. That night, she couldn't sleep. Earth's empty seat in the council chamber represented more than just the absence of a powerful civilization. It was a warning sign, a gap in the cosmic order that signaled something was fundamentally wrong. Ilara made her decision before dawn. Using her diplomatic credentials, she arranged travel to the border of restricted Earth space under the pretense of a cultural research mission. If the observation post at Proxima Centauri held answers, she would find them. The journey to the edge of Sol system took 3 days. As her ship approached the invisible boundary that Earth had established, automated warnings flashed across her navigation screens. ATTNTION. You are approaching restricted space. By order of Earth Central Command, all vessels are prohibited from proceeding. Violators will be intercepted. For 20 cycles, these warnings had kept the galaxy at bay. No ship had crossed this boundary, at least none that had returned to tell about it. Ilara's small diplomatic vessel hovered at the edge of the boundary. Here, at Proxima Centauri, Earth had once maintained a massive observation station, the furthest outpost of human civilization, and a vital scientific research facility. According to official records, it had been abandoned along with all other external human settlements when Earth enacted its isolation policy. As she scanned the area, her sensors detected the derelict station, a massive structure slowly rotating in the shadow of Proxima Centauri. It appeared damaged, with sections exposed to vacuum, but core systems still showed minimal power signatures. This is madness, she whispered to herself as she guided her ship toward the station. If Earth's defense systems were still active, she could be destroyed without warning. But the need to understand drove her forward. To her surprise, she encountered no resistance. Her ship docked with the abandoned station, the airlock cycling open with a hiss of stale air. Emergency lighting flickered dimly as she stepped inside, her environmental suit protecting her from the thin, cold atmosphere. The station was eerily silent, showing signs of a hasty evacuation. Personal items lay scattered, meals half-eaten, research terminals still active but locked down. Whatever had happened here, it had happened quickly. Ilara made her way to the central command hub, a circular room dominated by observation screens and research stations. Most systems were dead, but one terminal still glowed with power. As she approached, she noticed something unusual, a data crystal inserted into a reader port. These were obsolete technology, used only for the most sensitive information that couldn't risk network transmission. Heart pounding, Ilara activated the terminal. The screen flickered to life, displaying a single message. To whoever finds this, Earth didn't abandon the galaxy. We're saving it. The Void Hunters, and we are the shield. Below the message was a series of sensor readings and astronomical data, along with encrypted coordinates. Ilara downloaded the information to her personal device, her hands trembling. Just as she finished, the station's alert system suddenly blared to life. A computerized voice echoed through the abandoned corridors. Warning. Defense perimeter breach detected. Unknown vessels approaching. Rushing to the observation window, Ilara saw them. 3 sleek, black ships unlike any design she recognized, moving with unnatural precision toward the station. She had to leave, now. But as she turned to flee, the terminal behind her displayed one final message. They found us. Run. The Forbidden Zone. Captain Darian Thorne stared at the coded transmission for the 5th time, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of his private terminal. 20 years in the Galactic Survey Court had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now, every fiber of his being told him this message was authentic and terrifying. Message authenticated, Captain, reported his AI assistant. Biometric markers confirm it originated from Ambassador Voss. And she's gone dark since sending this? Thorne asked, his voice low. Affirmative. Her diplomatic vessel's transponder went offline 72 hours ago. Last position recorded near the Proxima Centauri restricted zone. Thorne leaned back in his chair aboard the GSC Pathfinder, a survey vessel officially tasked with mapping gravitational anomalies in the outer rim. Unofficially, the Pathfinder was one of the few ships authorized to operate near restricted zones, including Earth's self-imposed boundary. The message from Ambassador Ilara Voss was brief but disturbing. Captain Thorne, Earth's withdrawal wasn't isolation, it was preparation. Something called the Void is coming. I found evidence at Proxima Station, but I'm being pursued. Data attached. Trust no one in the Council. They know. Attached were fragmented sensor logs, astronomical data, and a partial star map with a region circled near the galactic core. Assemble the crew in the briefing room, Thorne ordered, and plot a course for Proxima Centauri. Keep us off the main transit lanes. Captain, I must remind you that entering Earth's restricted zone violates at least 7 Council directives. The AI cautioned. Noted, Thorne replied grimly. Do it anyway. 30 minutes later, Thorne faced his senior officers in the Pathfinder's briefing room. They were an unusual crew, specifically chosen for their discretion and willingness to operate in gray areas. We've received a priority alert from Ambassador Voss. Thorne began without preamble. She's missing, presumably within Earth's restricted zone. We're going in after her. Dr. Lyra Sato, the ship's xenobiologist, raised an eyebrow. Into Earth space. No one's done that in 20 years and returned. That we know of, corrected Security Chief Kelvin Reeves, a massive man with Martian colony tattoos visible above his collar. Earth doesn't destroy vessels that cross the boundary. They capture them. And how exactly would you know that? Asked Chief Engineer Maya Okafor. Reeves smiled thinly. Because before I joined the Survey Corps, I was part of a Martian intelligence unit. We sent probes across periodically. They didn't explode. They simply went dark after being intercepted. Thorne nodded, which is why we're not going in blind. Lyra, I want you to analyze this astronomical data. Maya, prepare stealth modifications to our energy signature. Kelvin, arm the crew but with strict defensive protocols only. We're not looking for a fight. As his officers departed to their tasks, Navigator Zhao Lin remained behind. As the only crew member born on Earth before the isolation, Lin was Thorne's most valuable asset for this mission. You think it's true, don't you? Lin asked quietly, about Earth protecting something. Thorne gazed at the star map showing their destination. 20 years ago, Earth was the dominant power in the galaxy. They had everything. Influence, resources, respect. No civilization abandons that without an existential reason. I was only a child when the isolation began, Lin said. But I remember the fear. It wasn't just policy. People were terrified. Of what, though? Thorne wondered aloud. What could frighten an entire planet into cutting itself off from the stars? I guess we're going to find out. Lin replied grimly. The Pathfinder slipped through the darkness of space, its ion engines muted to minimize detection. As they approached the boundary of Earth's restricted zone, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Sensors detecting automated warning buoys ahead, reported Lin. Standard restriction notifications broadcasting on all frequencies. Any sign of defensive installations? Thorne asked. Nothing obvious, Reeves replied from tactical. But that doesn't mean they're not there. Thorne made his decision. Take us in, 1/4 thrust. Passive sensors only. The Pathfinder crossed the invisible line that had separated Earth from the galaxy for 2 decades. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, Lyra's voice cut through the silence. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns surrounding Sol system. A spherical grid of something. It's massive. On the main view screen, Lyra's sensor readings revealed what billions of beings across the galaxy had never seen. A vast network of energy nodes encompassing the entire Sol system, extending from beyond Pluto's orbit to just outside Mercury's. It's a shield, Lynn whispered in awe. The entire system is enclosed. Not just a shield, Maya added from engineering. Those energy patterns, they're both defensive and offensive. It's the most sophisticated weapons grid I've ever seen. Thorne stared at the display, the magnitude of what they were seeing slowly sinking in. Earth didn't withdraw, he said quietly. They fortified. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple vessels approaching at high speed. Reeves shouted, "Configuration unknown." On the tactical display, 3 sleek black ships appeared, moving with uncanny precision toward the Pathfinder. "Evasive maneuvers," Thorne ordered. "Shields up." The Pathfinder banked hard, its engines flaring as it attempted to outrun the interceptors. But the black ships were faster, surrounding the survey vessel in a perfect triangular formation. "They're scanning us," Maya reported. "Deep-level scans. They're looking at everything, including crew biosignatures." A communication request flashed on Thorne's terminal. With a nod to Reeves, he accepted. The view screen flickered, revealing a face that sent a shock through the bridge crew. The figure was undeniably human. A woman with short gray hair and the sharp features of someone born in Earth's gravity. But there was something unsettling about her eyes, which seemed to shimmer with an internal light. "Pathfinder vessel," she spoke, her voice surprisingly warm. "You have entered restricted space. State your purpose." Thorne stood straighter. "Captain Darian Thorne, Galactic Survey Corps. We're searching for Ambassador Ilara Voss, who disappeared in this region 3 days ago." The woman's expression didn't change, but something flickered in those strange eyes. "Ambassador Voss is safe. She discovered something she wasn't supposed to know, something the Council has been hiding for decades." "And what might that be?" Thorne asked carefully. The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "The truth about why Earth stands alone. You've come this far, Captain. Would you like to see for yourself?" Before Thorne could respond, the woman continued. "I am Commander Iris Collins, Earth Defense Force. If you wish to understand, follow my escort to these coordinates. Any deviation will be considered hostile action." The transmission ended abruptly, replaced by navigation coordinates leading deeper into the Sol system, toward Earth itself. "It's a trap," Reeves stated flatly. "Possibly," Thorne agreed. "But it's also the only way to find the ambassador and get answers." The Pathfinder followed the black ships through a specific sequence of approach vectors that seemed to create temporary passages through the massive defense grid. As they moved deeper into the system, the crew stared in amazement at what they saw. Mars, once a fledgling colony world, now bristled with defensive installations. The asteroid belt had been transformed into an organized network of monitoring stations and what appeared to be shipyards. "They've been building," Maya whispered. "For 20 years, they'd been preparing for war." As they approached Earth orbit, an even more astonishing sight greeted them. The planet was surrounded by massive orbital platforms, not the peaceful space stations of the past, but colossal constructs that hummed with barely contained energy. "Those aren't defensive platforms," Reeves said, his military training evident in his tone. "They're weapons, planet killers." "But aimed where?" Lyra asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. "Who is Earth planning to fight?" The answer came as they were escorted to a massive station positioned at Earth's L1 Lagrange point. As the Pathfinder docked, Thorn noticed the station's unusual design. It wasn't facing Earth or outward toward potential threats. Instead, its primary sensors and what appeared to be enormous energy projectors were aimed toward the galactic core. Commander Collins met them at the airlock, flanked by soldiers in powered armor unlike any design Thorn had ever seen. Up close, the strange quality of her eyes was even more apparent. They shifted colors subtly, as if responding to light that wasn't there. "Welcome to Sentinel Station," she said, one of many watching the darkness. "Follow me. There's someone who wants to meet you." As they were led through corridors filled with personnel working with grim determination, Thorn couldn't help but notice that every view screen, every monitoring station was focused on the same region of space, the galactic core. Finally, they entered a chamber where Ambassador Voss waited, looking shaken but unharmed. Beside her stood an elderly man whose uniform bore the insignia of Earth's highest military rank. "Captain Thorn," the man greeted them. "I am Admiral Jonathan Chen. 20 years ago, I made the decision that changed everything. I ordered Earth's withdrawal from galactic affairs. Now it's time you learned why." He gestured toward a massive holographic display dominating the center of the room. It showed the galaxy in perfect detail, but with an anomaly near the core, a region of space that seemed to absorb light rather than emit it. 20 years ago, our deep space sensors detected something ancient awakening at the galactic core, Chen explained, his voice heavy. "Something that exists between dimensions, feeding on civilizations. We call it the Void. And it's hungry again. The ancient enemy." Admiral Chen's weathered hands manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on the darkness at the galactic core. As the image magnified, Thorn and his crew felt an instinctive revulsion. There was something fundamentally wrong about the way space itself seemed to distort around the anomaly. "Our scientists first detected it as a subtle gravitational irregularity," Chen explained. "Stars near the core were moving incorrectly, not just being pulled toward a central mass, but disappearing, energy signatures vanishing completely." Ambassador Voss stepped forward. "The Council knows about this, doesn't it? That's why my access was blocked under Protocol 7. Chen nodded grimly. "Some of them know. The older races, the Decurians, the Atraxians, the Veil Collective. They've seen this before, Ambassador. Once every 50,000 years, this entity awakens and feeds." "Feeds on what exactly?" Dr. Seto asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her apprehension. "On civilization itself," came a new voice. A woman in a plain gray uniform entered the chamber, her movements precise and measured. "On the energy of sentient life, technology, and the quantum connections between conscious beings." "This is Dr. Eliza Morgan," Chen introduced her, "our leading xenobiologist and the first to understand what we were really seeing." Morgan approached the hologram, her expression grave. "We call it the Harvester, an entity that exists partially in our dimension and partially outside it. It's not alive in any way we understand life. It's more like a cosmic storm that has achieved a form of consciousness, a hunger that thinks." The hologram shifted to show historical stellar maps. Every 50,000 years, it awakens and begins to feed. Civilizations fall. Stars go dark. Entire species are erased from existence. Then it returns to dormancy, allowing life to recover and evolve again, creating new civilizations for the next feeding cycle. "If this is true," Thorn said slowly, "why wouldn't the ancient races warn the rest of us? Why the secrecy?" Chen's laugh was bitter. "Because they've made a devil's bargain, Captain. They discovered long ago that they could direct the Harvester towards certain regions, certain species, sacrifice some to save others." The implications hit Thorn like a physical blow. They were planning to sacrifice Earth. Not just Earth, Morgan clarified. The entire spiral arm where humanity and its closest allies reside. The youngest, most vibrant civilizations, the perfect feast for the Harvester. Ambassador Voss sank into a chair, her alien features slack with shock. My people, the Sidoran Confederacy, we're in that spiral arm. The Council was going to sacrifice us all. The Corvash, the Meridians, the Vale Collective, all the ancient races sitting on the High Council, they've survived multiple awakening cycles by feeding the Harvester their younger competitors, Chen confirmed. It's how they maintain their dominance. Let the young races rise, then offer them to the darkness when it hungers again. Security Chief Reeves slammed his fist on the table. And what makes Earth different? Why fight what these ancient civilizations couldn't? Morgan smiled thinly. Because we found something they missed, or perhaps something they deliberately ignored. The Harvester can be wounded. It can be fought. She gestured, and the hologram shifted again, showing what appeared to be a massive energy weapon under construction in Earth orbit. This is the Spear of Dawn, she explained. For 20 years, we've been building weapons designed to strike at the Harvester's dimensional weak points. We discovered that certain energy frequencies can disrupt its feeding process, even cause it pain. That's why you isolated Earth, Navigator Lin realized aloud. You knew if the ancient races discovered you were developing weapons against the Harvester, they would destroy us immediately, Chen finished. Better to sacrifice one troublesome species than risk their comfortable cycle of survival. So we withdrew completely, fortified Sol system, and began preparing for war. Not against the galaxy, but against the thing that has been preying on it for millions of years. Thorne studied the weapons platforms they had observed during their approach. These defenses aren't just to keep others out. They're to fight something trying to get in. Precisely, Chen confirmed. The ancient races use specialized technology to direct the Harvester toward its prey. They're already beginning the process. We've detected their activation signals, rituals, some would call them, directing the Harvester toward our spiral arm. Ambassador Voss stood suddenly, her diplomatic poise returning. The council session I attended before investigating. There was a special motion from the Vale Collective about establishing new harmony resonance nodes in our sector. They're setting up the lure, and the clock is ticking, Morgan added. Our models suggest the Harvester will fully awaken within months. Once it begins moving toward the lure, nothing can stop it, except, perhaps, our weapons. But you can't fight this alone, Thorne said, the tactician in him immediately assessing the scales of the conflict. Even with 20 years of preparation, Earth is just one world. For the first time, Admiral Chen smiled genuinely. Which is why you're here, Captain. We need allies, species who aren't willing to be sacrificed. We need the younger races to understand what the ancient ones have planned for them. You're asking us to start an intergalactic civil war, Voss said, her voice hollow. The Council controls the largest fleets, the most advanced technology. We're asking you to help save billions of lives, Chen countered. Including your own people, Ambassador. The ancients are powerful, yes, but they're few. If the younger races unite against both them and the Harvester, a sudden alarm interrupted him. Commander Collins rushed to a terminal, her strange eyes widening as she read the incoming data. Admiral, we're detecting multiple dimensional fractures near the Horsehead Nebula. The luring process, it's already beginning. Chen's face hardened. It's happening faster than we predicted. The ancients must have sensed our preparations. Turning to Thorne and Voss, his voice took on new urgency. You have a choice to make. Return to the Council with this knowledge and risk being silenced, or help us rally the younger races against the true enemy. There's no middle ground, no diplomatic solution. The Harvester is coming, and Earth stands ready to fight. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over them. Through the observation window, they could see Earth gleaming blue and white below, surrounded by the most formidable defenses ever constructed by human hands. 20 years of isolation, Thorne said quietly. The galaxy thought Earth was hiding in fear, but you were preparing for the greatest fight in history. Chen nodded solemnly. Humanity didn't abandon its responsibility to the galaxy, Captain. We embraced it fully, even knowing we might stand alone. Dr. Morgan approached with a data crystal. This contains everything we know about the Harvester, the ancient race's betrayal, and our defensive technologies. If you choose to help us, take this to the leaders of the younger civilizations. They deserve the chance to fight for their survival. Ambassador Voss took the crystal, her four-fingered hand trembling slightly. The Cidoran people have always valued truth above all else. If what you say is true, and I believe it is, then we will stand with Earth. As will the Survey Corps, Thorne added. At least those of us who haven't been compromised. Commander Collins returned, her expression grim. Admiral, the fractures are expanding. We're detecting spatial distortions approaching the outer sectors of our spiral arm. The Harvester is responding to the lure faster than any previous awakening cycle. They've supercharged it somehow, Morgan muttered. The ancients must be desperate to eliminate us quickly. Chen turned back to the holographic display, where the darkness at the galactic core seemed to pulse ominously. Then we have no time to waste. Captain Thorne, take Ambassador Voss and the data crystal. Spread the truth to anyone who will listen. Earth will deploy the Spear of Dawn to buy you time, but we'll need allies to win this fight. As Thorne and his crew prepared to depart with Ambassador Voss, alarms began blaring throughout the station. On the main display, they could see multiple ships emerging from hyperspace near the edge of Sol system. Council vessels, heavily armed. They'd found us, Collins announced. Veil Collective dreadnoughts leading a mixed fleet. They must have tracked the ambassador's trail. Chen's eyes narrowed. The ancients are making their move. They can't allow the truth to spread. He turned to Thorne, his expression resolute. We'll hold them here. The Pathfinder is small enough to slip through our defensive grid at these coordinates. Get that data to the younger races. Show them what their supposed protectors have planned for them. As they rushed toward the docking bay, Ambassador Voss suddenly stopped, turning to Admiral Chen. Wait, there's something I don't understand. How did Earth discover the truth when none of the younger races did? What made humans different? Chen's weathered face showed a flicker of pride. Curiosity, Ambassador. While other species accepted the ancients' explanations for the cyclical disappearances of civilizations, we kept asking questions. It's humanity's greatest strength. And now, perhaps, the galaxy's salvation. The last thing Thorne saw as the Pathfinder detached from Sentinel Station was Earth's defensive grid powering up, preparing to face both the approaching Council fleet and something far worse lurking at the edge of known space. The ancient enemy had awakened, and humanity's lonely vigil was about to be tested. Humanity's stand. The Pathfinder burst from hyperspace at the edge of the Cidoran home system, trailing energy discharge from a harrowing escape through Council blockades. For 2 weeks, they had been hunted across the galaxy, narrowly evading Veil Collective hunter-killers and Corvesh interceptors. On the bridge, Captain Thorne studied the tactical display with exhausted eyes. Their once pristine survey vessel now bore the scars of multiple engagements, scorched hull plating, jury-rigged shield generators, and weapons systems cannibalized from a derelict freighter they'd salvaged mid-flight. Status of the Cidoran Defense Fleet, he asked, his voice hoarse from too many hours issuing combat orders. Forming a perimeter around us, Lynn reported from navigation. They're suspicious but holding fire. Ambassador Voss stood beside Thorne, her once immaculate diplomatic robes replaced by practical ship's coveralls. My authentication codes are still being accepted. The High Council hasn't officially denounced me yet. They wouldn't, Dr. Sato commented from her station. The ancient races are too clever for that. Openly targeting a respected ambassador would raise questions. Better to eliminate us quietly and claim ignorance. A communication request flashed on the main screen. With a nod from Thorne, Voss accepted. Ambassador Voss, came the stern voice of Prime Minister Korik, leader of the Cidoran Confederacy. Your unexpected return has caused considerable concern. The Galactic Council has issued alerts claiming you were abducted by human separatists. Voss straightened, her antenna quivering with suppressed emotion. "Prime Minister, I must speak with you and the Defense Council immediately. What I've discovered threatens not just the Sidoran people, but all younger races in our spiral arm." Korek's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "These are serious claims, Ambassador." "I have proof," she replied firmly, "and witnesses, but we must act quickly. Council forces are already moving to silence us." After a tense moment, Korek nodded. "Land at the capital spaceport. Security forces will escort you to the sanctuary chamber." As the transmission ended, Reeves approached from tactical. "They're giving us a chance, but we'll be walking into a potential trap. The ancients almost certainly have agents within the Sidoran government." "We don't have a choice," Thorne replied grimly. "Earth is fighting a holding action against forces they can't defeat alone. We need allies, and we need them now." The Pathfinder descended through Sidara's amber atmosphere, landing on a platform surrounded by heavily armed security forces. As Thorne, Voss, and the senior crew disembarked, they were immediately encircled by guards. "Precautionary measures only, Ambassador," explained the security chief, a tall Sidoran with battle scars visible on his exoskeleton. "The Council has made some concerning accusations." "I understand," Voss replied. "But time is critical." "Is the Defense Council assembled?" "Waiting in the sanctuary chamber. All communications have been secured as requested." The sanctuary chamber, Sidara's most secure facility, was an ancient structure buried deep beneath the capital city. Built of phase-shifted materials that blocked all forms of surveillance, it had served as the Confederacy's final bastion of secrecy for millennia. Prime Minister Korek waited with the 12 members of the Defense Council, their expressions ranging from skepticism to outright hostility. "You claim to have discovered a threat to our entire civilization," Korek began without preamble. "Explain." For the next hour, Ambassador Voss and Captain Thorne presented their evidence, the astronomical data showing the awakening harvester, historical records from Earth's archives, documenting the cyclical disappearances of civilizations, and finally, the damning transmissions between ancient council members discussing the necessary sacrifice of the younger races. As they finished, the chamber remained silent, the Sidoran leaders processing the horrifying implications. "If what you say is true," General Mira, head of Sidoran Defense Forces, finally spoke, "then we have already lost. The ancient races control the Council, the primary trade routes, the most advanced weapons technologies. How can we possibly fight both them? And this cosmic horror?" In answer, Thorne activated the final file from Earth's data crystal, a detailed schematic of the Spear of Dawn and related defensive technologies.